Is psychology a science? Most people who work in the psychological disciplines or in the psychology field would be a little bit, I wouldn't say sensitive, but more defensive over this topic and would say that psychology is a science. But really, psychology isn't a science, it's just a subject area, quote unquote. It can be studied scientifically, but it is not under the term science. Now, I'm pretty sure some people would argue the fact that, well, psychology is around your brain, what about neuroscience? Like, yeah, neuroscience is a science because you are looking at the structures of the brain and the functions of the brain, whereas psychology is really more focused on how we behave and how we react to certain situations and disorders. Now, disorders are science to a certain extent, again. Whether you are calling science about, or neuroscience, where the structure and the functions of the brain. And yes, that is where disorders come in. And in psychology, you do talk about disorders, but those disorders in psychology really isn't focused on what's happening to the brain. Like, a little bit of that is focused on what's happening in the brain, but majority of the topics, when you hear those certain things in, say, your class or just online, it's more talking about how people react when those disorders happen, or how they are in their normal life when those disorders happen. So, like, say, Alzheimer's, yes, it is talking about how certain parts of the brain have died, but it's really psychology. The psychology part of it is normally focusing on how they react in everyday life. So a neuroscience would look at the structure of the brain and how it's functioning now, whereas a psychologist would, or psychological disciplinist or psychologist, whatever you want to call them, is going to be looking at how that particular person is acting every single day. Same with Parkinson's disease or a schizophrenic. They're not going to look at what their brain is doing, they're going to look at how they are reacting to everything that is happening around them. So it's, psychology is more of a behavior-based topic, and neuroscience is more of an actual science. So most people get those mixed up because in college, psychology is based under a science, but it's really not a science. It's just an area, a subject area of a science. So that's my argument on it.